This weekend, Ryan is solving ghost crimes, Andy is stuck in Fortnite jail, and we say no to the anti-drug NES game. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 191. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode. Winter is upon us. Poor Andy and I are dealing with the first blizzard of the year.
We've
Afraid.
had one hell of a fall, so I'll take that. But yeah, it might stay below freezing until the next year. I don't know if it's going to go above that.
It's sad. It's sad after skipping winter last year.
Yep.
I think I made the decision that I'm just going to work from home because usually what first snowfall means in Fargo is that everyone forgets how driving on snow works and you just take your life into your own hands if you get on the interstate. So probably just avoid that whole mess. It's fun. The joys of living up north, right?
Yeah. Snow, cold, windy.
Yes. Oh, and it's cold season too. Is it hitting you guys yet? Like I swear, like the public school system just went to hell.
Yep. I'm on my second week now of just having congestion, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And then both my kids were talking about like stomachs hurting this week, and mine was too, like going into the week. And I was like, for the love of God, I hope this doesn't just lead to where it could. But so far, we've avoided stomach flu, but I've got colleagues that are at home this week with kids barfing everywhere. So that's great.
Better now than Thanksgiving and Christmas, I guess. But
yeah, that's true. That's usually where a lot of it comes from, right? Like family gatherings, everyone goes home with a sickness. So yeah, and that's gonna be weird too. We got Thanksgiving coming up. I think this is the latest I can ever remember Thanksgiving. Like,
yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah, it's gonna be justified that it goes right into Christmas because there really isn't that much time until Christmas after that. But.
And I'm going to go on the record and say, like, if you've put Christmas decorations up and Thanksgiving hasn't passed, you're a monster. And also, I'm talking to many of you. If you haven't taken down your inflatable Halloween decorations up at this point, you're also monsters. Like, just do the right thing, people. There's a window. You're outside of both of them.
Yeah, my pumpkins are still on the deck. I gotta.
Pumpkins are fine. Woods. Pumpkins are fine because you can stretch those to Thanksgiving, you know.
Well, they're not fine because then they start rotting on the deck, and then it's just like
then
they just look like they have dentures, you know.
Yeah,
thing that had teeth are now just old wrinkly pumpkin people.
Yeah, my wife had several that we didn't carve that were just decoration, and because it was so warm all fall, like we've had to throw about half of them away because they're just like crumbling in on themselves. It's disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll get through it. Another winter can't hurt us. As much as I don't want to see it, but I don't know. You've been playing anything new or had time even? I know both of us probably been pretty busy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a kind of weird stretch that I haven't played a whole lot. I did see that the new flight simulator came out today.
Yeah, and it's on Series X right away too, right?
Yeah, so I downloaded it, which was only 11 gigs, which was hard to believe because that first one is like 125 or something.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's nuts.
So it was a quick download, got in there, and then it just said, you're in the login queue. Please wait or try again later. So then I hopped on Twitter to check, and there are people that are talking about they've been in this queue for 7 hours.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not playing this today.
Why do you need does it have DRM? So like it just has to?
I don't know. Who knows? It seems like it's a problem that they, you know, there's a issue. It's not necessarily there's that much demand. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not I don't know did the Netflix thing ever come out to say what the problem was with that?
I mean, probably they're just not a live streaming platform and completely inept at trying to pull it off.
Yeah.
Also, they probably did everyone a favor because that fight was a joke anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. I was reading how in that new flight sim you can actually get out of the plane and like walk around, which if that's
Oh
true and
yeah.
like stuff renders pretty cool, like how great would it be to like fly to like some random place and then like, but I mean, if you downloaded that at 11 gigs, I can't imagine the detail is going to be there like it was in the last game.
No, if it isn't, it's got to do extra downloads after the fact, which
Right.
wouldn't
Which would
surprise
add
me, I
up.
guess. But
Or it's doing like heavy cloud based stuff, but I can't imagine that working out well.
yeah,
Yeah. That's interesting. I should check that out. I didn't realize it was out yet.
yeah, I was pretty blown away with that last one that they did. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
excited to try this if it's similar or even more detail. That's cool.
Yeah. One if it's a better package too, like for downloading and more compressed. Because that was the problem with the old one for me was I'd not touch it for a couple weeks, and every time I'd want to go back, there'd be like some massive like 5 gig download. And like,
Yep.
well, I don't want to wait 40 minutes. I just wanted to fart around the plane for like 10 minutes. So
Yep. And then it's like 10 minutes for a loading screen to get
yes,
into the game too. But
yeah, yeah, well, that's cool. I'll have to check that out. Have you played any of that Call of Duty 6, Black
I
Ops
haven't. I
6?
have it downloaded, but I have not jumped into it. The story looked kind of interesting. I kind of want to check it out, but I haven't played one in a really long time either. So
I haven't either. And although everyone's making it seem like it's a return to form, but it's just like I keep wondering who really cares at this point. I know it sold really well, so obviously a lot of people, but its audience is a sliver of what it once was.
yeah,
I haven't bothered because like my interest with those was always like playing online with people, and one, I don't have people online that play it anymore, and two, I don't think I could probably keep up at this point. So why frustrate myself? That's kind of how I
yeah.
looked at it.
And is that community still there, or have they moved on to the kind of the battle royale stuff?
Right, your Fortnites and your what's the one that was based off of Titanfall that Apex.
Yeah,
I always get like amazed when they talk about like a new thing for that because like people still play Apex.
yeah.
Like I
That
really
is
love the
that
gameplay in
was my favorite
Apex.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, I love the way it feels. I don't like the game that much, but I
yeah,
mean I love Titanfall too. That's still one of the best shooters. So
yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah, I don't
haven't.
know, like the prestiging and all that stuff. Like, that's like
It's
such
still
an
there.
antiquated version of it. Of
Yeah.
like you go to Fortnite and there's so many meters and stuff and battle passes and stuff. Like that doesn't even hold a candle to what
Well, and
prestiging and all that stuff
you
was.
lose the carryover, right? Like that's the draw of the Forever platform is like you can't even carry over like your stuff from year to year in the online
Hmm.
multiplayer, which I mean I guess makes sense because there's different settings, but yeah, such a different model. I don't know. I always got into that though, like the prestige grind and stuff, but I also used to buy those games and that was the only game I played 5 days a week for an entire year too. So
Right.
or at least, for most of the months, but yeah. I don't know if I'll try it. I probably won't. I've got a coworker who keeps trying to get me to buy that. It's that one that's been on Steam forever, like Phasmagoria, or that doesn't sound right. Like
Oh, Phasmophobia. It's
there
it's
you go.
something like
Yes,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah, that dropped on Xbox. He's like trying to get me to buy. I'm like, it's $30, dude. Like it's $12 on Steam.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like a $30 game. Plus, I'm not so sure it won't end up on Game Pass at some point. So
Yeah, that's always the thing with Xbox is like, well, when does it happen?
yeah,
That game, that's exactly the type of game that I like. That type of like multiplayer,
yeah,
but there is just too much creepy shit in that game that I think
yeah.
I would crap my pants. So
I mean, I couldn't go into the crawl space in the Resident Evil 7 demo, so I'm pretty sure I can't sink my toes into this. So, speaking of
I
Xbox too, have you loved the fact that they launched a discless version of the Series X, only to have it be matched in price for the original console this holiday season?
yeah.
Mm,
Whoops.
yeah, somebody wasn't thinking. It'll probably
But
still
I wouldn't be,
sell the
yeah, I was gonna say
PlayStation Pro, PlayStation
yeah.
5 Pro. I love all the articles of the scalpers getting burned on that. Like they can't sell it for double the money. It's like, yeah, well, no shit, because nobody wants it for
Yeah.
the actual asking price.
I and especially like the people that bought those bought them day one,
Right. Right.
and then after that, who's left? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Speaking of, well, I guess it ties more into, well, it ties into both systems, I guess, but let's touch on this one, like kind of out of order. Did you see Keeley's Game Awards Game of the Year nominee list?
I didn't see the whole list. I saw like the controversy about DLC being nominated. Elden Ring
Yeah.
DLC was nominated, right?
Yep. Which
But
is
the rest of them
complete
were,
bullshit.
yeah, it's an interesting year. I don't know. There's nothing really like way out there, right? That's
No, but
you
I
know is going to
still
win.
think it's crazy. Let me like go through the list here. I should have had it pulled up. Um, yeah, I should have had this ready ahead of the podcast. It's Elden Ring in the expansion. Game of the Year nominees 2024. There we go. Yeah, so this list blows my mind though. So the nominees are Astrobot, which I agree with, Balatro, which no way in hell I'd ever touch that, but five people in the industry won't shut up about it, so I guess
Yeah.
we're there. Maybe it's a bigger game than I thought. It's Black Myth Wukong, which don't even know what that's about. Yeah, the Elden Ring expansion, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then Metaphor Refantasio, which is a or Sega Atlas thing, so I guess. But it's just like, how many of those games are even like truly mainstream? Like
Yeah.
Astrobot, and that's, I mean, you can make the Elden Ring thing, but like it's an expansion, so I don't count it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like that's part of the, isn't that part two of like the retelling of that story?
Yeah.
So
And
that's
it
not
kind
even a
of I
full
felt like it
game,
kind of came and went.
right?
Like nobody on the other hand, I mean, a lot of those are kind of unique IP, right? Like Astrobot is like I guess it's the third game, but technically it just seems like it's
Yeah,
like,
it's its
well,
first
it's kind
full
of a
one.
debut, right?
I feel like it. But I mean, there's just no nods to Nintendo in here. I mean,
Yeah.
we got a Zelda game this year that's not in that list, which
But there's
it's
no Call of
divisive.
Duty or Assassin's Creed or any, you know,
Right.
anything like that you usually see in them.
It feels like a very, I don't know. It almost feels like a Firecast Game of the Year list
Yeah.
where they're going to debate about the merits of all the big AAA games and then just put Balatro in there at the end anyway, because that's what they
Because
do.
that's what they play. Yeah. Yeah, it does
Yeah.
seem like it's very specialized, I would say, because it doesn't seem like if you polled a huge amount of people, you're probably going to get a more generic answer, right?
Yeah.
So it does seem like it's,
And as long
I
as
mean,
like they've bucketed, I guess, like the stuff that I think should go there into appropriate categories, I guess. But just because you've also nominated a game under a different category doesn't mean it shouldn't also qualify for Game of the Year consideration. Plus, I think, let's be honest, like if you're considering Game of the Year and you're starting with just six games, I don't know. I mean, maybe they didn't start with that, maybe they whittled it down to that, but like, I don't know. It's a pretty
yeah.
tight
Well,
list.
and then for one to be DLC, you know, an
Yeah.
expansion, because it's, you know, that, you know, that's not fair to other people in the industry, because if you
Right.
make a game, it's from a ground up or whatever, where that is you're piggybacking off of the work that you did previously.
Well, yeah, because don't they have a special category for like persistently online games like Fortnite?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
why wouldn't that go there?
right, exactly. I agree. It should be the base content. I mean, it's not a true sequel. Yeah, I don't think it belongs there. And if, I mean, hopefully they're smart enough not to hand it to him. I'm guessing they'll go Astrobot, but who knows?
Yeah,
The Game Awards are just so
you
stupid
never
anyway.
know. You never know.
They've just turned that into like pandering, and I don't know what Keely's trying to do with that, but it's
Yeah,
not going in the, it's not been going in the right direction.
it it's interesting that Nintendo isn't in there. So I wonder if they're just now if Keeley got cut off from the Nintendo people, so
Yeah.
they're not in there, or
I
vice
know they
versa.
were talking about like some other categories that Echoes, Jamboree, and um, Princess Peach Showtime fell into, but I think it's largely going to be that like family
Hmm.
type category that they tend to throw Nintendo into now because it's like you can't consider anything Nintendo on par with like real games or which I mean to be fair this year they did have a pretty kid forward focus but I mean several games yet too this year like bigger games have dropped in the fall and they're not
Hmm.
appearing on this list. It just is weird to me. But the Game Awards are weird in general.
Yeah. Uh, Almost certainly a Death Stranding 2 trailer will be there though.
I was actually contemplating installing that and trying to play it.
Yeah, I was looking at it too because I got it through Epic for free at one point, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
me too. And we were playing. My son and I were playing through Metal Gear. I had him playing through that a little bit on the PlayStation. I was like, yeah, maybe I should dive back into some Kojima weirdness, but we'll see. I don't know. So you've been playing Fortnite again, or you've been struggling with Fortnite? It looks like.
yeah. So been trying to. It's my son's birthday, so it kind of became a milestone that he could have his own Fortnite account.
That sucks. It's not fun to
I
set up.
know, and I messed it up somehow.
Uh
I
oh.
mean, I guess I messed it up by not knowing. Apparently, um, if you go in and play Fortnite under their account, under their Xbox account, it just creates a Epic account in the background, kind of.
Okay.
Um, so after that, I mean, he must have done that at some point a while ago. But now I went in to try and I made his own Epic account. And then once I got to the point where I had to connect it to his Xbox account, it said, nope, that's already
Yeah.
being used by something else.
Yeah, I ran into this exact hurdle on the Nintendo Switch, which kept us from forever redeeming V-Bucks cards and stuff. So when you got the PS5, we just ditched everything and went whole new
Went
account.
right to that.
Which I was out of, like, which sucks because then you run out of emails, right? So it's like, well, do I have to create a generic email because now like all my other emails are tied up with other stuff? And
Well, that's the thing that, yeah, because I already made a generic email. I mean, I already made an email for him. I'm not going to make another one that he doesn't use,
right.
for this thing that I need to memorize or whatever. So I deleted the new Epic account that I made.
Okay.
Apparently, they say if you go in and log in with your Xbox account, then it'll log you in as that, the dummy account that created for you, and then you can change things from there.
Sure.
But I already used his username that he wants in the other account that I deleted. And when you delete an account, it says, yeah, that'll be done in 14 days.
Yeah.
So now we're in a waiting pattern to
I
see if this is even going to work the way that I think it's going to. I don't know.
I know exactly the hell you're going through because I can't tell you how many arguments and like tears there have been in our house because of that. And then like
Yeah.
you just have to like hope to God too that you're not like setting anything up wrong as far as like the parental settings. Cause like obviously I want some parental settings on. Like he can't be
Yep.
talking to strangers, you know what I mean? But
Yep.
then it's like you don't want to click the wrong thing because then he's not gonna even be able to join lobbies and talk to friends. And it's I get it. Like I get some of that, but I don't get the like terrible like back and forth infrastructure between like where an account was created because like of course a kid's gonna play Fortnite on like a million different devices and like the fact that like yeah if you start one place and then try to move it later and like I went through the whole headache too of like like I'm sure you saw you create the Epic account and you go in it's got like the blade for each platform but like I could never get that to link across to Nintendo. It just kept saying like this has already been registered and I'm like by who? Like
Yep.
no
Yeah,
it
that's
has
what happened.
not.
Yeah, that's what happened. Then he
Yeah.
went in on the Nintendo thing and then started playing without an account, and it just created a fake one
Yeah.
and attached it. But like, you know, the credentials for both sides. Why
Right.
can't they just have a way to be like, merge these accounts, you know? Like,
Right.
make it work.
Yeah.
It's
It
dumb.
sends an email to your Nintendo account. You click, yep, that's fine. We'll let Epic do that,
Yep.
and then we're done.
Yep.
Yeah. It I guess like the name thing and everything is frustrating too, but it's like just when you start putting V-Bucks and money on it and then like things don't transfer, it's just it
Yeah.
sucks.
There's some real stakes to it then, you know,
Yeah.
after that. So there's like pressure to get it right the first time, yet there's V-Bucks burning a hole in my son's pocket right now that he can't spend, you know, on Ice Spice or some bullshit that he has no idea who it is. So
Yeah, that's the thing I don't get is like all these people. I'm like, how would you even know? Like, again, the M&M skin. I don't know. It might. I don't know who he bought, but like, yeah, I walked in today and he was like some blonde chick in a mini skirt. Maybe that's some
yeah.
celebrity too. I'm like, why are you playing as a female? He's like, because I can. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I just walked out. I was
I
like,
I was shocked to the core that Snoop Dogg was not previously in Fortnite until this point. Like,
right,
out of every, that would have been day one for me. It was like, who is the guy that sells out to a video game?
yeah, yeah. It does seem like the perfect crossover.
Yeah.
That's right up his alley. Yeah, that sucks. That hopefully once like the timer runs out and the full delete goes through, you can get through. But yeah, I
Hmm.
every time and like we constantly have the battle too of 2FA because like he wants to set up 2FA, but then 2FA enables friends to like gift and share like V-Bucks and loot and stuff.
Hmm.
And I know that he'd get taken advantage of, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it because you're gonna take and gift like whatever thing to some kid who's gonna convince you to do it, and then you're gonna be pissed when all your V-Bucks are
Yeah.
gone. And
Yeah.
so I have refused to do it for him. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
it's like
That's smart.
they try to bait the kids in. They're just like, well, if you register for 2FA and play through this season, like you can, if you win a game, you're registered to potentially win like $100 in V-Bucks. It's like, stop getting little kids like all worked out. Like it's a child lottery. It's so dumb.
Right. With like 3 layers of different currency that they lose track of, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That was the other thing too. He's like, can I have $20? I'm like, why? Because I want to buy this thing. I was like, well, use your V-Bucks. No, this doesn't use V-Bucks. I was like, that's bullshit. I'm like, I don't understand any of this, but I hate it all. Freaking Fortnite. I uh I guess we've been playing a little bit more Astrobot. I got my son kind of to pick that back up. Like he only wants to play it if I'm watching him, which I'm fine with because that game's still amazing. And we're pretty much at the end. I think we're in the last world. And that game continues to impress. Like it is very good. It is a much better platformer than I think pretty much anything Nintendo's done recently out there. And you'll be happy to know that there is a certain Sandy world themed after a game that you really like on the PlayStation.
Ooh, I'm
So
pretty excited about that.
yeah, that one is pretty neat. So
Well,
yeah.
that's why he needs you there, is he needs an elder person there to tell him what all these old references are.
Yeah, I can name most of them. There's some because he clicks through them fast before you can read the descriptions on some. I'm like, like that's probably RPG something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get about 70% of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, still a great game. I mean, again, if you have a PlayStation 5, buy that damn thing. Don't buy a PlayStation 5 for it though. It'll be on PC probably next year, I'm guessing.
You think so? I
I
hope
don't.
so.
Maybe not. I doubt that one will be.
That's like, yeah, that's the one where I'm like, oh man, I hope it comes out.
Yeah.
I guess I can talk about that. So I drilled some holes in my walls to run HDMI cables
Okay.
all over the place, basically, with a whole bunch of switchers. So I have 2 TVs on the other side of the room attached to 2 different PCs over here.
Okay.
Um, so that's been making PC gaming a lot nicer, where you can just connect to TV instantly, the
Yeah.
one that you want. So I think going forward, I might be moving that way because it's like you said about the other thing where it's always cheaper on Steam anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the right move. I think I'm increasingly leaning towards that too. I mean, if console costs are going to be what they are, I think I'm gonna. I ended up with the Series X just because of the Game Pass thing, but it didn't really change how much I was gaming. It just switched from me using Game Pass and Epic and Steam on my PC more to just doing the Xbox stuff on the couch.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, I think I'll probably just do Nintendo going forward. And really, I'm curious to see what Xbox does too. Like, if they ever just go full like PC platform sort of.
Well,
I don't know.
you see the marketing now is like they're just saying that everything is an Xbox. So obviously they're being like, yeah, the console is not our brand anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it is really nice. I know Nate used to give me shit about like that HDMI cord that I'd run across the room, but like I loved that. Like it is so nice to just be able to sit on your couch. I mean, granted,
Yep.
my PC gaming setup in my game room is fairly comfortable too, but there's something to be said about just even doing couch co-op and having it, and it's so convenient too, just with everything now finally getting like standard like controller support. Like pretty much every PC game now you can just boot into and grab a controller and walk 50 feet away, and
Right.
it's pretty sweet. And if you get two machines, then you can both run Game Pass on both. And
Right. Yep. Yeah, that's a plan is maybe doing some multiplayer on the PC here
yeah,
now too. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good plan. That's nice to have it, when you've got space and stuff. Because you can plan out your whole basement now too to like kind of run some more stuff, I suppose, and
hmm
have different stations. So it's pretty awesome.
yeah, I did discover that HDMI is pretty finicky as far as like long distances.
Yes.
Um, so I had to get the right cable and right,
Yeah.
all the right equipment to make that work. Apparently, you can do it over Ethernet, which I was already too far down the other rabbit hole to switch tracks, but that's probably the way to do it. But
Yeah, I ran into that too with longer HDMI cables and like the base power of a lot of those units too. Like if you're trying to do like hot swap, like Pi builds and stuff, like sometimes that signal does just not pass through enough cable. So, and
yeah,
if you're buying like a lower end cable, especially,
yeah,
but yeah, I didn't know you could do through Ethernet. That's kind of interesting. I know I've looked into options for myself too on like getting a good like wireless HDMI system, but like every time you read like pretty much every product that's at a reasonable price, they're like, yeah, if you're gonna like put up a PowerPoint, like this is fine. Like do not, you can't stream. Like you're gonna get so much like screen tearing that it's not
sure,
worth
yeah,
it. Yeah.
huh,
Pretty soon we'll all just have like chips in our head. It'll be fine.
yeah.
Don't even need these screens or cords.
I'm almost there already. I have glasses, so they just have to put it in the glasses, and then we're
Yeah.
set.
Didn't Google have something like that?
Yeah, I think Facebook's doing it right now. It's they have Ray Bans that do something like that now.
I saw Apple already pulled the plug on their whole shtick.
Yeah,
I guess it makes sense. Like they didn't really talk about it after. I feel like it came out. Casey Neistat made a video on it, and so did a few other YouTubers, and then like that product was never discussed again.
yep,
Cool
yeah,
tech, not the right time.
yeah. VR is just I don't know. It's not in a fully used.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of not fully usable, did you see they finally fixed that GTA trilogy remastered collection? Like 3 years after it came out. I was reading about that and I was like, wait, they were still working on that behind the scenes? Like, I just assumed they abandoned it like they did all the other shoddy reports and stuff that got moved over.
I'll give them a pass because it's a small team with limited resources to make something like that happen. So
Yeah.
you gotta give them a pass.
Except they gave the cold shoulder to the team that did it and took them out of the front end credits. But,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't like hearing that now. It's like, well, maybe I'll pick that up because I've seen it on sales for like under $20 digitally. But I'm like, well, if it's that bad of an experience, I have the original. I can just pop them in. I don't care. But it's just
I
kind of wild to me that they're putting any amount of time into it with six just being like all that anyone seems to care about.
I think it's on Netflix. their game thing right now.
Oh, really?
Because that's what they was telling me while I couldn't watch the fight. It was giving me others be like, hey, here's some other stuff you could do because there are
So
other
can you
things we.
do that with a controller through your PC or
I
like?
I have no idea how that works. If it's just streaming from a mobile thing or
Yeah,
how
I've
that.
only ever seen
I
it on
don't
the.
know.
I've only ever done it on the mobile stuff. I didn't know that that
Yeah,
was
I've
interesting.
never dipped my toes in it at all because it's
Oh,
like the way I watch Netflix is always through TV on the app, and they just never surface like any of that as even a thing, you know?
right. And I would argue that I almost don't watch Netflix.
Yeah,
It's the thing I pay for that I don't want to. My wife won't let me get rid of it. Yeah.
yeah, we're kind of in the same boat.
I honestly like if it was just me in the house, I wouldn't be paying for anything. Like I can get by with Tubi and like whatever like Roku channel and YouTube. Like I'm 90% of what I watch is on YouTube. Even movies and stuff. If I'm
Yeah,
bored, I'm just like, what free movie can I watch with ads? And it's just like, all right, I'll
yeah.
watch Police Academy too. You know, like I don't care.
Did you know they made an animated series of that?
Yeah, yeah.
I've never seen that.
It's pretty wild. That was such a popular movie series. Like I could, never seeing any of it as a kid. Like I was very familiar with it as a franchise though, because they were just like always cranking them out.
Yeah, it is. It's well, a lot of those, like RoboCop and all that, where it's like
Yeah,
rated R for adults things, and then it turns into a kid thing because a guy makes
right.
silly voices. So
Yeah, all of that stuff got pushed that way. Dick Tracy, Batman. I mean, none of those
yeah,
movies were kid friendly at all. I got my ass chewed for watching Batman. I had neighbors who were like early adopters of like VHS and stuff, and I went across the street like and watched it because they had rented it, and then came home and my mom like, well, what'd you do? I told her and just like I wasn't told I couldn't. That's the thing that pisses me off. Like some of the shit my parents did when you look back, it's like never once was I told that I could not watch Batman. I had no idea that Batman was. Like, they had McDonald's toys for Christ's sake. Of course, I thought I could watch Batman.
right.
And then like you tell them, and then you're like, what am I gonna do? Like you erase my memory now? Like why yell? Why yell at me as a kid?
And it was because they had some story on like 2020 with John Stossel talking about how it's corrupting the minds of children
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah. It did really fuck me up. I'm afraid of bats to this day. So yeah. Yeah, there was that. It is such a wild thing. Like there was such a push to like take mainstream adult stuff and turn it into a kid's property. I mean, so many of those things got animated series. It's nuts.
Yep. I was trying to find Tales from the Crypt. It's not available anywhere. You can't find. You can even like get it on demand to buy it.
That's because HBO is a bunch of bastards and like they
Yeah,
make their stuff impossible to get, even through like even on Macs and stuff. Like that stuff should
yeah,
be there and they
it
don't
should be
have any
there.
of it.
But yet, like during my search, I find there's a Tales from the Crypt Keeper animated series that
Oh
I
yeah.
never knew existed either. So
Yep.
that
Yeah.
was available.
Probably not as good, huh?
No,
Tales from the Crypt had like some genuinely amazing episodes.
yeah,
But
and
that
it's
was
like it doesn't even exist. Like
yeah.
it doesn't even like pop up as a thing where it's like, oh yeah, this is a thing, but nothing has it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it didn't even exist. It's weird.
That'd be such a great one for them to revive and just do like 6 episode seasons, like every once in a while
Yeah,
on Max, because it's perfect for that. You don't have to invest a ton of money. You don't have to keep a recurring cast. I mean, shit, you could probably just give small teams a budget
right,
and approve their, script and let them shoot it for you. So
right. You make a competition, send in your short
yeah,
movie or something like that.
yeah. I wonder who owns like maybe the problem is that they don't own the Crypt Keeper itself. Like maybe that's not their IP or
That could
something.
be. I think it's like a comic book thing or something from way
I know
back in the
there's
day.
comic books for sure. I don't know how it all ties together, but interesting. Yeah, that was a great. It's wild to me that that's not anywhere. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
there's if you want to
there's ways. Yeah,
the
I'm
Bay,
sure.
you could find it, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. That'll tie into something I'm going to talk about later on here. Um, so the other news I saw, I guess that was kind of interesting. Well, we had a couple acquisition things or like industry related things. I'll just start off with the SteamWorld Dig Dev. I saw that they're like fully shifting their business model now, and they laid off between 80 and 100 employees who worked on the game development side. And they
Oof.
basically flipped to not focus on in-house stuff, and they're going to rearrange the business to just publish other people's games,
Hmm.
which is crazy to me because it seems like the SteamWorld stuff was like so beloved. I mean, I haven't played a few of them, but I thought they did well. I mean, well enough to justify continuing development at least.
Yeah, because I can't imagine that they're that big, right? I
No,
don't
they're
know.
all like mid-size, like mid indie games. I mean, they're always a little more polished, but yeah, it's weird. So that had to have been a significant amount of their employee base. Like I would imagine half.
Yeah, I think they did really start. I did notice that maybe like last year, like how much they were publishing. Like it
Sure.
would be on front of games, and it's like, holy shit, this. Which I just don't understand how worlds that how does a publisher even exist like that? Like a
Right.
small developer become a publisher.
Yeah. And
I don't
then
I
how are
don't get
you
it.
carving out enough? I mean, and maybe the whole thing is too is like it's just a more stable business model because you're not having to sink, the resources endlessly into a 3-year development cycle and hoping you make it back.
Yeah.
And that's probably the reality of it. But I don't know. I bet forever they'll continue to just churn out like collections and like updated bundles of their SteamWorld stuff. Like at some point, it seems like they'd have to do a SteamWorld definitive collection thing where
Yeah.
it's like heist and dig and all that stuff in one, which is what I've kind of wanted to see them do. But yeah, kind of surprising and out of nowhere. I thought. I mean, it seemed like they were still going strong with games that people appreciated.
Yeah. I wonder if they just like couldn't pull it all together, like the SteamWorld stuff. Like if you are the SteamWorld developer, you're kind of like pressured into, oh, I have to make another SteamWorld game, you
Yeah,
know?
that could
And
be.
they're just kind of like, we're out of ideas on like this robot world. I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting how they like really like stuck with that theme, right? Like it's like, well, every game is going to be based in this world, but a completely different game style type, and
Yeah.
that probably at some point leads to you causing confusion too, and like people not realizing what's new and what not, or you think you're buying one game and get something else, and I don't know. But very odd, I thought.
Yeah.
Um,
If they're listening, I will pay $60 for SteamWorld Dig 3.
oh,
I
I would
would,
too.
I would, I would definitely pay that.
Yeah,
The rest of
SteamWorld
them, whatever.
Dig 2 seemed like it was going in a bigger, it was such a leap from the first one that, yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of the best Metroidvanias.
yeah,
Yeah. And you've got some Sony purchase news potentially, it looks like.
yeah. This is not official yet, so this might be very outdated talking about this, but it seems like pretty big news because they're buying like the media company conglomerate that owns a lot of stuff in video game industry, mainly From Software, which is the people that they've worked with Bloodborne and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think they've been trying to acquire them
Given
for a very long time, I
yeah,
think. And now they're just like, let's just buy the company above them.
it would make sense given that Microsoft now owns the other developer in that space too. So it's like, you
Yeah,
know, if you want the genre, I mean those style of games are popular.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
to lock them
Um,
into the PlayStation, you might actually have an exclusive. Well, it'll be on PC, but
yeah,
you know,
that would be a big one, I would
that would be a
imagine.
big one.
That would be the way to force them to do Bloodborne too, or create, because obviously that was why they never made another one, is because they're like, well, we can go do our own thing and get 100% of the profits instead of
Right.
making it one for Sony. Um, there's a couple other ones, Spike Chunsoft, which is kind of a big Japanese, kind of like they did Danganronpa and a whole bunch of those kind of Japanese things. That would be a pretty big get for them too, I think.
Yeah, I
But
mean the one thing they need is quality games on a regular. I mean, even if they're timed exclusives before going to PC, if they're not going to another console, I mean that's what's killing Sony right now. mean,
Yep.
the problem though is like you buy these acquisitions, like these big acquisitions like this, and like you don't reap the rewards for another 3 to 4 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
I mean,
almost like this is a purchase for the next generation, right?
yeah. Remember when Sony bought Bungie? What's going on with that? Like they haven't. What? How much money have they made on that at all
Yeah.
so far?
God, I forgot they were back under. I've heard that that's like coming to a head. Like everything is indicating that Sony and Bungie are not seeing eye to eye whatsoever. So
No.
I fully suspect the article that like Bungie is being dissolved at some point, unless they
Yeah,
manage to buy themselves out yet again. Like you know what I mean?
that would be crazy to be again. But I wouldn't want to be in their position after they spent how much on Concord that went the way that did, and then Bungie's over there like, yeah, we're doing kind of the same thing. Sony's going to be like, no, we're not going to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole thing with Concord and the fact that they just like shit can that, and it's just like, all right, that was like $500 million down the drain. Sweet. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I'd read that too, and that was like some of the rumors of like prospective buyers. But it sounds like all we know is that like it's being talked about, but we don't know who the interested parties are in at this
Right.
point for sure.
Yeah.
I would say it's safe to say it's not at all Microsoft because their
Yeah.
spend I would think would be pretty locked down for the significant future, especially after they've been shuttering studios.
Yeah. However, he just said that they were still looking at acquisitions, although not on the scale of what they were doing, I guess. But
Yeah, I
you have
mean
to
they never
wonder
have.
how many of these developers are like, well, do we take the money right now, or do we risk basically going bankrupt in another 6 months? Right.
Yeah,
We're kind of on
yeah,
the fire side, the fire sale side of acquisitions compared to the boom. We got free capital and we're going to go buy everything.
right. Yeah, it's a weird state the industry's in right now. Like it's pretty. At some point, I feel like all of that's going to collapse in on itself, right? Then we're going to go back to like a cyclical cycle of like indie and like B tier, and it'll all
Yeah.
repeat and stack back up. I don't know. It's tough to know like when the costs of like AAA development continue to if AAA development continues to be a focus, which arguably there's less AAA games coming out every year, but like if that's what Microsoft and Sony are expecting out of these acquisitions, like it's not sustainable. Like I just the market is so fractured now. Um,
Yeah.
it's tough to say.
How do they like? I for somebody that big, why wouldn't you? If you were going to spend $400 million, why wouldn't you just spend it on as many different small games as possible?
Right.
Because you have a pretty decent chance that one of them is going to hit. I mean, that said, there's probably like 1,000 games that come out on Steam every day that never go anywhere. But
Yeah, but like I mean they got that so right in the prior two generations, right? Like Xbox 360 had like its indie like
yeah,
showcases and like the week of I forget what it was called, and then even PS3 had like the minis, and like they've really like tried to diversify and push those things to the forefront, and then you get to these new hardware generations, it's like they totally forgot that, which I
right,
don't understand because people still like those games. It's
yeah,
just if you don't take the time to spotlight them and highlight them, they just fall into the sea of you know a million options.
right. It's just amazing that they haven't tried to be part of that too, or like make their own. Because
Yeah,
if Sony, they could easily have come up with Balatro or Vampire Survivors or
right.
something like that, and have a little bit bigger marketing budget than them.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
both of those games kind of stole something from a different game, like just kind of steal that from another game, market the shit out of it, and it seems like good business compared to spending $400 million on a game that you're not going to release.
Yeah. I'd agree. But what do we know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think. Uh, we've each got one left here. We can just touch on mine quickly because there wasn't much to say. But did you see that in Super Nintendo World Direct thing?
The Donkey Kong one? No, I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't
It
see it all. I saw clips of like the suit, the guy wearing the suit and all that, and it's like,
right.
wow, that's cool. But
You pretty much saw it. You know, they just like went through it and it's just like, it's a Donkey Kong theme area and like here's the foods you can only get. Like you can get a hot dog with Donkey Kong and Diddy riding across it like a surfboard.
hmm,
That's appetizing. And then they're like, yeah, it's only available in this part of the park. And um, you know, then they give you a sneak peek of the ride, but couldn't show you the whole thing. And it's just like I kind of looked at my wife and I was like, why do they build theme parks based around one ride? Like they're missing the other component to a theme park. Like I get like you have zones, but like there should be more to do than like eat or go on a roller coaster.
yeah,
The only exciting bit I took from it was that they said that that new Donkey Kong area would be in Donkey or Super Nintendo World in Florida when it opens, and both of them, like the whole park, should be opening in 2025, is what they said.
okay.
So I think like spring or early summer of 2025. So
So you would be down there at that
that's
point.
yeah, that's my target date. Is like we're not gonna do. I don't think we're gonna do. Well, we might be 2026, but yeah, because I don't know if we're gonna go this next year, but we might go the year after. I got to do it pretty soon because my daughter just turned 13, so
Yeah,
by 16, that's
they don't
complete
want to
fuck
go.
off point, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll
Yeah,
see.
from what I've heard, that roller coaster seems interesting because there's like a section that looks like you're off the rails, just
Yeah.
like a Donkey Kong thing is.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool that they're actually like going the extra mile to theme it as you know a minecart rail would be in those games.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like that's kind of like neat is like how far they have gone into the detail and the theming in both sections. It's just I wish they were focusing a little more on like things to keep you there all day. Because to me, it almost feels like other than the forced like waiting in line for food and the one thing to do, it's like almost what are you gonna do after an hour and a half in each of these zones? But
Yeah. Does the wristband stuff
it still
work over
works.
there too
Yeah.
in that new section? Okay.
Yep. So they have new wristbands that are themed after it, but they did say they did say the other wristbands will work across the whole
Okay.
thing. So yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. I don't know that it needed a whole direct, but you know,
Yeah.
it's Nintendo for you. So you been playing Midnight Suns?
Yeah. I did I did something very like old school. I bought DLC,
Wow.
a season pass.
Oh.
So Midnight Suns is a Marvel game. I think I've talked about this.
Yep.
I played it before, got really into it, kind of dropped off of it. Um, and then last week I'm like, I should go back in there and finish that game. Got right up to the point where like it's okay, you're in the end game, you got to go talk to this person, you know, like there's no turning back after this thing, right?
Sure.
I'm like, oh man, I like this game. And then I'm like, this, did I get all the characters? So then I looked up the characters and there's 4 DLC ones. I'm like, oh, okay. And I got this game for free on Epic. And now Epic had the season pass for 75% off.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, I better pick that up.
They got you. That's the
They
gotcha.
got me. Yep. The free game led to money out of my wallet.
A whole 15 cents for them.
Yep. But so yeah, now I got DLC to extend the length of the game. Not ideal because probably wanted all of those people at the same time going through the whole game instead
Sure.
of kind of like at the end now like grinding out these missions for this. But it's it continues to be good, and the DLC is very good because it it's more characters with more story, more, and they all interact with all the other people in it. So it's like seems organic to the point where it felt like they already had it
I
and
was gonna say
probably
maybe they built it
locked
in the
it.
base game. Yeah.
Yeah, um, that's kind of what it felt like. But
Do you know when it launched? Was there some like deluxe digital edition that came with those guys right out of the gate?
I think so. I think
Okay.
there was like 3 different versions of this game that
Yeah.
you could buy.
That tracks then.
Yeah. But one of them is Deadpool, which was
Oh, nice.
kind of a refreshing thing because the rest of it's pretty serious.
Right.
And then he comes in and he's just talking about like, well, the level designer needs us to go over here, and and he's just breaking the fourth wall on everything. So it's kind of a refreshing thing to have him jump into the game this far in.
Sure.
But
change up the tone. Yeah.
right.
That's cool. Yeah. Ever since I learned what that game was because I, like you grabbed it through Epic, and I just figured it was like some kind of junk game because I knew it had come out, but like nobody talked about it. And then like you start looking into it and reading it, and everyone's like, no, this is actually like a genuinely like good, if not the best Marvel based game out there. So
Yeah.
I should try it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think after a while it runs into those things where you fall into a habit of using the same characters because they combo well. You found a good combo. So you don't experiment with other characters and you don't power them up as much. So it kind of becomes repetitive after a while if you don't mix it up, I guess. But
Sure. Yeah, not a bad deal though. Like to get the full experience of a game for just a couple bucks, and then you
yeah,
get the base
it's
game for
like
free.
160 or 120, I think, altogether normally. And I think I paid $12.50 for it all. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
I'm always a little fearful for the day that like Epic is like, oh, we're gonna shutter our store because it's like I have such a good catalog on there at this point.
Yeah.
I still blows me in my mind that they're just giving away games every week still, but I'll keep collecting them. So
yeah, they're by far the best ones because there's other ones that do it, like Amazon gives some away, and usually they're not anything to write home about. But
yeah, I feel like once a month you're getting like a genuinely good quality game. Like
yeah,
you get a lot of like shovelware and stuff, but most of the time there's something pretty substantial. And then I guess we'll be coming up on the holiday thing where they do like the 12 days of Christmas soon too. And
oh yeah,
get a new one every day. I always get like super hooked on that.
the hardest part is just going on every day and getting it.
Right. Yeah, I usually forget one. Like it seems like historically like I've forgotten like one good game every holiday season, but I try to remind myself. Well, I think we're up to staff picks, huh?
Yeah, I'll go first. Mine is pretty well known.
It's getting a sequel.
Yes, there's a new sequel just out. The new hotness is Gladiator 2.
You know, the movie that everyone's been asking for.
Yeah, exactly. And once the first one ended, they started, we got to make a sequel. So they started right away. And 25 years later or whatever, here it is. But
they needed those child actors to age up into this role.
Yeah. Yeah, that kid, he really had to. But in preparation, we rewatched the first one, and like that movie still holds up pretty good.
Yeah. I was never like as blown away with that, I think, as like a lot of people were, but yeah, it is a very good movie with more to it than the trailers would have you believe.
Right. It was one of those things where I've seen it, but I remembered nothing from it. But I called everything that was happening in it. Like I knew where the direction of everything. It was so cliche, but I also couldn't say that I called it because I know I've seen it before. So I couldn't actually verify in the back of my head that I wasn't just recalling it somehow and just making myself feel like I was smart. But overall, I mean, the action's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, for that time period, yeah, for when they made that movie, it looks really amazing, actually.
How does like some of the CG stuff hold up?
I think it looked great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to picture Russell Crowe now as that character, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like he basically is like I just always picture him now as like what was he, Zeus in that one Thor movie where he's just like the big bloated bearded dude. Yeah. Well, Well, it's good that it still holds up. I'm sure that thing's like getting watched on like every streaming platform available right now in
Hmm.
anticipation for that sequel.
Which probably has nothing to. I doubt anything has anything to do with the second one. I don't know. There's probably some family or something involved with it, but obviously Russell Crowe's not going to be in it,
Right.
unless some creepy flashback or something. But
Yeah, I forget. Did he? Because he dies at the end of that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was interesting when I saw the trailers for that. They were doing a second one because it's well, for one, to call it like Gladiator 2, and not just give it like a
yeah.
sub, why?
Well, Beetlejuice did it.
Well, no, they just added another Beetlejuice.
That's true.
That's what it should have been. Gladiator, Gladiator. Or why not just Gladiators? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I,
there you go.
the numeral naming seems kind of pointless when you're this far out from the original. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's interesting. I haven't considered revisiting it, but I probably should because at some point I do want to watch Gladiator 2. Have you heard anything on like reviews or anything? Are they out?
I've heard it's pretty good, which is it's wild because it's the same director and he's like mid 80s now
Oh
and he's
wow.
directing movies still.
Hmm.
So it's amazing that anything can come out with something like that,
Yeah.
that situation.
Well, I mean, I guess that's probably what's helping is like at least there's some continuity and like you got the main people involved. But yeah.
Right.
But even so, like you said, it's been so long. You'd think like a person's outlook on life and especially their work performance at that age would be different. But
Right. And it's got to be a money thing at this point, or like, oh well, I might as well just do it. If he had an idea of what he wanted to do with Gladiator 2, it would have happened long ago. you
yeah, that
know?
would have been 3 summers at most.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always just kind of figured like a lot of that had like fallen out of favor because I feel like the whole like Roman thing, like it was just
Yeah.
kind of like it was such a big thing through like the early 80s and stuff. And then like as a pop culture thing, like, ninjas took over and then,
I
but I
think
mean,
probably like
we,
300 came out and
yeah, I
then
was
they're
going to
like,
say we
what do
did get
we do
300.
after that?
Yeah. Which talk about a movie that I absolutely loved. Like just was like that fucking ruled. And then you watch it again now and you're like, what the fuck? Like, the movie kind of sucks. And then they made that awful sequel. It was just like terrible where they
I
like
don't think
fight.
I saw that one.
There's like a fuck fight in the middle, like between the armies. Like they just fuck and then like walk off and then start killing each other after that. Like it makes no sense. They're just like hate screwing on a ship and then they continue battle. So,
Huh.
yeah. Well, it's good to know the Gladiator still holds up. Um, it's my staff pick. I have one that surprisingly holds up too. I just happened to pop up in my mind one night. I don't know if you might remember. Did you ever watch Ghost Rider on
Yes.
PBS? Okay.
I remember there's one specific episode that is burned in my head about a goopy, like purple guy that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah. So Ghost Rider was like a Nike funded like public broadcast system.
Oh,
This was like their power hour when they had the Carmen San Diego show and they had this show and they ran I think every day after school or at least 4 days a week. So you got like that hour of like edutainment and like Ghost Rider is like it's a show with kids like teenagers, middle schoolers who like befriend a spirit who can communicate to them only through text and only the chosen few can see it. And they basically then go on like Nancy Drew mysteries and like solve crimes and shit. And like I found somebody's uploaded every episode sequentially, and like it's still a honestly kind of good show. Like I know I didn't get through all of it as a kid, but I got through the first like 2 or 3 seasons for sure. And like I didn't realize like I think this might be the first thing that Samuel L. Jackson was in, like or anything
oh,
substantial. Lou
oh,
Albano's in it, the dad from Elf. Like there's like so many cameos. Um, and yeah, it's just it's kind of like Power Rangers meets like I don't know Goosebumps. You know what I mean? Because these kids have powers and abilities of like deduction and reasoning, and then like they're sneakily like trying to get kids to think reading is cool and like helping them correct punctuation, and you know what I mean. It's
So was it the ghost telling the kids what to do, or was it he controlled a typewriter or something like that?
right. He could
Something
like
like that?
he can rearrange text that's on. Well, so the rules are loosey goosey, but the basis is the ghost can rearrange and text available to him, like on a page to write messaging, and like, or if you write a note, he can rearrange your words to like write back. But like, yeah, it's weird because the ghost can only interact through text. It can't speak to it. It can't hear what you're saying, so it only knows you through like your words, and it just like comes and goes and like follows these kids around. And it's I don't know. It's like you'd expect for a show like that. It's like this mix of like there's the Asian girl and there's the black kid. Jamal's the main kid, and I don't know all that stereotypical '90s stuff and like hood problems with like street like basketball games getting raw. I don't. It's so weird. But like the thing that like made me laugh my ass off was like they get 4 episodes in, then they realize that they can come up with like a code word through Ghostwriter. Well, they'll like message him and he'll share the word with everybody else. It's like rally. So you write rally and then like your initial. It's like rally J. Like everyone, and then Ghostwriter runs around, tells everybody, and then they all meet at Jamal's house. And then they do this and they explain how it's going to work. Like this is great. It's like having a telephone. And the one kid's like, no, it's better than a telephone because you can do it anywhere. And I was just like, oh my god, like the future's going to blow your mind, kid.
Uh, you can get
Yeah.
shut down with that ghost once in the future.
Yeah, it's such a weird show though. Like it definitely like you can see why I connected with like us as kids though, because it's just like normal kids who are basically just like using deduction to solve like pretty apparent and obvious crimes,
Yeah.
but it's like they have a cool ghost friend to help them do it. So
Which is cool because, like, after that, it kind of get into Blue's Clues where it's a lot less, like crime and which is probably for the good because that one monster in that show, I can still see it in my head right now. It kept me up at night all the time, and I'm pretty sure somebody died. There was like an
oh
actual murder in that
yeah,
episode or something like that. It was way above like what I remember any other show being.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's pretty dark. Like I'm on the tail end of season 2, which is the dad from Elf burning his video piracy storefront down to cover it up and then trying to pin it on Jamal. And like that's even pretty like heavy for
yeah,
like for kids. So I'm curious. I don't recall the monster one, but I probably did see it. Like it's
if
amazing
you,
because it's like I just vaguely remembered the premise enough to like Google it or like YouTube search it, and then like rewatching it. Like it's one of those things where it's like you remember like 1/100th of it, so it's like, oh, I kind of pieced this together. But
yeah, yeah, I don't remember anything else other than that one monster because it just scarred me for whatever reason. That it's like a purple gooey monster in a leather jacket. It was not
nice.
a good guy. Um, yeah, and then are you moving on to Wishbone after this then,
Oh,
or
dude. Okay, I have some actual shame with Wishbone because I was far too old to be watching Wishbone, but I fucking loved Wishbone. Like I was a teenager watching Wishbone.
uh,
But yes, I probably should move on to Wishbone. Uh, I'm
because I
actually
think those were back
debating.
to back. If I remember right, that's what it was.
I
It's
think
like
you're
Ghost
right.
Rider to
Yep. I
Wishbone.
I've been debating like even just stopping Ghost Rider and like showing my kids a couple episodes to see if they would like it, and then just restarting because I'm only like I don't know 10 episodes in or whatever. So they'll probably hate it, like anything I like.
Yeah,
I just got into a
everything is.
screaming match with my daughter the other day about how the Maze Runner is amazing and Napoleon Dynamite sucks. I was like get out of my
Um,
house, like get out of my house. The Maze Runner's trash.
yeah,
Uh,
it is funny watching like showing kids older stuff, right? And it's almost like they don't get like they're not quite understanding it.
yeah,
It's just a totally different wavelength, right?
yeah,
I don't know.
it's disappointing.
We a growing thing is just putting on like old streams of 90s like Saturday morning cartoons. So you get all the ads and all that stuff for it too, which is always a blast to like just laugh at like all that stuff.
Yes.
But some of the shows are just like they don't. I thought they were good, and I still think they hold up all right. And it was just like complete like nothing. It was like
Yeah.
what? It was almost like I was watching paint dry to the kids.
Yeah, I could see that. There, it does seem like there's so much of that like early '90s like cartoon fodder, and like even like sitcoms. Like, man, a lot of that stuff does not work.
Yeah.
Uh, well, should we move on to our weekend rental?
Mm.
So, for anyone unfamiliar with the weekend rental, we pick a game for a given system, we play through it, and then we give our personal opinions as to whether we would buy, rent, or burn that game. We had a little bit of a old man memory issue this go around. I, for some reason, thought there was a game on the TurboGrafx 16 called Wally Bear and the No Gang, but
And
there's
I
not.
pictured it in my mind too,
Yes.
and I'm like, yep, let's go along with that.
So Wally Bear and the No Gang, which I think is a similar IP, is on the NES as an unlicensed game, but on the TurboGrafx 16, it's called Yo Bro. But thematically, they seem to have the same grizzly bear on a skateboard for some reason. So what ended up happening is like we just played them both because you and I both went down the same rabbit hole of not finding it on the TurboGrafx, so playing it for the NES, and then later finding it on the TurboGrafx. So we'll just touch on both of them, I guess, because I think it's pretty safe to say where I know both of these are going. But yeah, Wally Bear and the No Gang on the NES, pretty bare bones side scrolling, avoid things that are trying to kill you in terrible patterns.
Yeah.
And just go left and keep going left and hope not to get hit is basically the gist of it.
Right. With every level meeting a kid who is going through let's say the same problems that you might see in Ghost Rider.
Right. Yeah, everything's like a public service. There's like a PSA level to everything with these games.
Yep. So my favorite part about this game is obviously it's it's an anti-drug, but it's also, like a whole bunch of other stuff. Don't steal, don't get with strangers, all that stuff. It's all
What
in
do you
there.
mean by get with strangers? They literally tell you not to sleep with strangers?
Yeah, it said do not go, even if they have candy and say they know your parents, do not get in the van, right? But the whole thing starts out with the parents they're just like leaning up against the wall, and they're just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and find my friends for my party, go to Uncle Gary or something,
Yeah.
Gary's house. And the parents are like, okay, be back by dark. And talk about the most 80s and 90s thing where it's just like a kid is just leaving the house.
Yeah.
I'm
Be
worried
home in
about
time
every
for supper.
aspect.
Right.
Yeah. Where it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your child's at, basically? But
Yeah.
also make sure he doesn't take drugs and do all this other stuff. It's kind of it's competing with itself a little bit. But yeah, it's just skateboarding, getting, not trying to get hit. It's one hit KOs on everything.
Yeah.
It, for the most part, I think there is a power up that you can get to take multiple hits, but
It honestly reminds me a lot of that first Simpsons game with Bart just cruising down the street, except you're always on a skateboard. It's the only difference.
yeah.
Really.
And the patterns are way worse in this
Yeah.
game. It's got some, Castlevania bats and all that bullshit pretty badly in this game.
Yes, and they're very small sprites too, which sucks.
Yep.
And I always love games too where you're playing as like a bipedal animal, but like the rules don't apply to everything else. Like there's still like pit bulls and like other wild animals who want to kill you. It's like, didn't everyone evolve? How come only bears can talk and ride
The pit bulls
skateboards?
they're on drugs. That's why you don't do drugs.
So they could walk upright and wear pants. It's just that they're strung out.
Yep.
That makes sense now.
You've seen it.
Yeah, you said you stuck it out and finished this game. I gave it like 15 minutes and was like, nah, I saw that. So
Yeah. I think it's 8 levels, but the levels, if you're just kind of like, oh, you might get hit once or twice on it and you just kind of rewind and go, find your way through it. This game's 20 minutes long, if that.
sure.
Um, which seems insulting. Obviously, I think it's the message was funded by somebody, probably the US government or something. And that was first and foremost gameplay, quality of game second.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty apparent, like right from the get go. Like that opening cutscene, like you said, is like rendered pretty well, but as soon as you get into the game, you can tell it's just like every other unlicensed trash game that got
Mm-hmm.
pushed out. The music is actually better than a lot of those games, but it still is super forgettable. But it has the distinction of at least not being like blood like curdling like awful like a lot of those like wisdom tree games and stuff are. So
Yeah.
it's just everything about it is like very boilerplate. It feels like if you bought one of those like 201 retro consoles now, like how yeah, there's like an action section and like 15 games, but they're just this palette swap of each like game.
Right.
That's what
In the
this feels
background,
like.
like the background's just scrolling the
Yeah,
same shit over and over. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what this feels like. And you know, some poor sucker paid $50 for it back in the day,
Yep.
which is and it's probably sold in like a Christian bookstore or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't
And
know if I own it.
unlicensed, which is
Yeah,
always funny when like the wholesome stuff is unlicensed.
yeah, that is weird. Yeah, I was trying to go through my collection and see if I had it or not. I think it's like 50-50 that I own this one or not. It's not a super expensive cartridge. I want to say it's like 40-50 bucks maybe. Could be wrong, but yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not bad in terms of an unlicensed game, but it's not something you'd want to pop into your
It
Nintendo
no.
unless you had to. But then yeah, that led me down the rabbit hole of like why can't I find this game on my TurboGrafx 16? Because initially I had gone to go find it on my modded PlayStation Classic. I was like, why isn't it in the games list? Like it should be in the games list. And then when I came into the house and realized it was called Yo Bro, I put that in, and it's. I don't know if there's as much of the PSA stuff in there. I think there might be some references in the instruction manual. I'm not sure, but this game is basically like a think 720 skateboarding, isometric, like pseudo 3D level layout, top down sort of game. And your goal is to go in every level and rescue children from whatever they decide is going to kill children that day. And it starts out that it's like plants that are giant piranhas. And then the next
Little Shop
thing,
of Horrors, yeah.
right. And then it's bees. And then it's fucking dinosaurs. And then it's like, and then what I love is like you end these levels and then it gives you a rating on like how many children you saved, but it doesn't say that. It's just like how many children alive. It's like holy shit. Like
What happened to the other?
they got just murdered. And then like you do see like I was watching the one where the level where the everything spawns from like a egg and becomes a dinosaur and you just follow these dinosaurs around and instead of rescuing the children, I was just watching them like the animations for them just like wholesale like chewing these kids up. It was
Oh,
pretty great. Like
wow.
hilarious. Um, but yeah, it's that sort of game. You enter a stage, eliminate the enemy, rescue what you can. It almost feels like a really shitty precursor to like a Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Yeah.
But what really stands out about this game, well, one, the graphical style and the choice to make it isometric. But the big thing is like for whatever reason, this whole soundtrack is like MIDI files of Beach Boys
Hmm.
songs. And every level's like a different well, I assume they repeat at some point. But it for sure the first few stages are always a different song. And they're pretty good renditions. I mean, the TurboGrafx has a pretty good sound chip. But it's just sort of weird that when you think of when the TurboGrafx came out, what kid was wanting to listen to the Beach Boys?
Oh, I don't. They had a really big album, like early '90s, I want to say. The
Really? Like I associate Beach Boys with like 70s shit, but
yeah,
maybe.
the Kokomo, I think was 90s.
Oh
I want to
boy,
say.
that song at every roller skating
Yeah,
rink in America.
I could be wrong, but
No, you're probably right.
I mean they were also on the Full House thing, right? They were always
Oh, okay.
Uncle Jesse.
You're right. But I never was like, I want to listen to the Beach Boys as a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The so I googled Wally Bear TurboGrafx, and you would think that Yo Bear would come up, but I never. There was nothing that ever popped up. So I'm still not sure if this is even related, but it is. If it's not, it is
Yeah.
the most coincidental thing ever because it's the same looking teddy bear
Yeah.
riding a skateboard. Seems seems weird that it wouldn't be.
Right. I agree. Like it feels like there must have been some core character that they were licensing out somewhere, but yeah, it well, I think what threw me off was like we had just like done a Google thing, like hidden gems in the TurboGrafx, and I think somebody probably had the wrong image on there because it was definitely. I remember seeing like Wally Bear and the No Gang. I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, it's weird. It does feel like they tie into each other, but yeah, like you said, there's no clear distinction other than a bear on a skateboard. But
Yeah, and it doesn't have like the anti-drug thing or anything like that in the
not that I
yo.
noticed. Maybe if you progress through enough levels, but yeah, I didn't. I didn't see that either. I think the thing that sucks with this game is like it's competent enough, but the gameplay is so dependent upon precise shooting in a isometric control based environment that you find yourself fighting the controls more than you do enjoying the game. Like you're constantly just like running another few inches to be able to slowly turn around, like huck a few rocks at any enemies, and it kind of just throws what was a pretty good premise out the window based on pretty rough design flaws.
Yeah.
It doesn't break the game; it just sucks the life out of the game.
Yeah. If they were if it was more of a paperboy like going down one lane, I think
Right.
I would have enjoyed it better. Yeah. But just to zoom out and have the eight-way movement across all of that just it was a little especially and then it also had somewhat physics, right? Like the speed carried over a little bit,
Yeah, and like the
which is
speed
weird.
carried into the turning, but it's just like you couldn't go that fast because then you couldn't control where shit anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Just looking on Wikipedia to see if there's any tie-in to Yo Bro.
I don't know if I couldn't find one. At least, trying to find it Wally Bear on TurboGrafx, I feel like it would have popped up
Right.
at some point, but maybe same developer or something. I don't know.
Right.
We'll have to. Is there a Wikipedia page for bears on skateboards, and then we'll track down the whole lineage.
Yeah, I mean it could be just a grand coincidence because like it was the 80s, so anything on a skateboard or 80s early 90s like yeah. It is funny though like how we both like psyched ourselves into thinking that that was a thing that existed on that console. Like
Yeah,
too much random video game knowledge and old age just starting to catch up with
yeah.
us.
Well, especially Yo Bro also sounds like a game you would make for anti-drug message. Like that sounds
Yes,
like a
I
yeah.
agree. It's weird you don't find anything much for Yo Bro. I was just gonna see if anybody had a Wikipedia page for that thing.
Nobody cared.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it's TurboGrafx is weird like that, where some of them are just nobody cares at all.
Yeah, yeah, and this is definitely one of those games. Yeah, that's the problem with any of that TurboGrafx stuff anymore. Is it's like $5 or $500, and this
Yeah.
is probably wow, it's more than a $5 game, but yeah. Well, what do you? We'll just do a combined rating. Where do you place the bear games?
Yeah, if I playing Yobro second definitely made it seem like Yobro was a way better game.
Sure.
But I don't know if that's technically the case because it did not for a TurboGrafx game, it probably wasn't all that impressive.
Yeah.
So even if that one was by itself, that kind of maybe sneak into a rent, just the way the sequence that I played them. The NES game is so bad to drag it down to make the total score a burn for me.
Yeah, I don't even have that hard of a time contemplating it. I think they're both burned for me. I mean, the NES Wally Bear's pretty abysmal, and Yobro is just it squanders any good intention it had with just awful controls. I mean, there's 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 the foundation of something that could be good there or enjoyable, but it's mostly just a chore with some fun backing tracks and graphic mutilation of children. But other than that, there's no redeeming factor. I'm gonna torch them both. I will say I played Yobro when I first picked it up for the TurboGrafx with my original lot that I bought, and that was like 7 years ago, and this is the first time I picked it up since. So that's how much
So
that game stuck with me.
yeah, I I can spoil the end of Wally Bear, right?
Oh please, yeah, please do.
Yeah.
We're all dying.
Um. So you help all these guys with their various problems and say no, you shouldn't do that. You got to join the no gang. I'm on my way to my uncle's, which it is pitch black by the time you get to your uncle's house. It is dark. You are not back in time that you promised your parents that you would be.
Uh-oh.
Instead, you've brought all your friends over to your single uncle's house in the middle of the night. Statistically speaking, that's probably worse than all of the other things that you just told your friends not to do. Because there's probably some way worse stuff that could happen there.
Would have been better if like you brought them home after dark and there was just like the remnants of like a murder suicide and like the cops are there and like there's just a blood splatter on the wall. Like it's because you didn't come home, Wally. Yeah,
Well, all
bringing a
my
bunch of
friends are
troubled
sexually assaulted now. Oh well.
yeah, bringing a bunch of troubled youth to your uncle's late at night who you know has like a beer fridge in his garage that's fully stocked. It's probably not right. It's great. But at least they tried, right? You know, trying to get kids to do the right thing.
Yeah. You have to wonder, like, after, how much of that stuff was, oh, we got a grant, we're getting paid. let's just churn this shit out, right?
Yeah. I think the Reagan era really like pushed a lot of funding into that kind of shit. Well, and even I guess, yeah, the first Bush administration too, they did a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah. We need to bring that back, you know. Where's the lovable skateboarding bear game about how vaping is not cool and you know that creepy guy in the corner is sus. Honestly, Among Us could be a great game to just weasel in
Yeah.
instead of like who's the murderer. It's just like it could be like who's the tweaked out crackhead and
Yep. Everybody votes for smoking.
yeah, whole level dedicated to like how you shouldn't do Zin, and it's gonna be great.
Yep.
I think we found
And
our
social,
niche. Maybe we should start a small time game development or publishing group.
yeah. Social media addiction.
Wow,
There's so many things you could tackle with kids nowadays.
all
It was
sorts
so
of
much
stuff.
simpler back then where it's like, hey, don't get in that van. Just don't get in there.
Yeah, I do love it though. I love that. Like I was watching some other video too. There, well, and Ghost Rider to a large extent. You watch that show, and it's like they're in New York City, and like the 13-year-old, or not even, I think she's like 12, 11 or 12-year-old girl, like talks to her single dad, like, hey, I gotta go over to Jamal's, don't worry, he lives like half a mile away. Like, okay, be back by dinner. It's like, she doesn't have a cell phone, she could go anywhere. Like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, I suppose that's gonna be another episode.
It is. It's the end of the podcast. Do you know where your children are at?
No. I'm pretty sure they're in
No,
bed.
I think they're in bed. Yeah, hopefully. You can reach us at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. We do some social media. It's in flux right now. We'll figure it out. So check back soon on that. We do a movie podcast on the Geekade Patreon. Shout out to Geekade. Also check out their other podcasts. They're all pretty great. And yeah, until next time, be kind, rewind.